In this lecture, we're going to understand the update phase of the React component lifecycle. Whenever you update a component property or state, there are several update phase methods active, or you can say invoked. So let's talk about these methods. A component is updated whenever there is a change in a component's state or property. React have 5 built-in methods that gets called when a component is updated. When the component state or property changes, React will first call getDerivedState from props. In the previous lecture, we all know how to use this hook in the mounting phase. Just after that, React will call shouldComponentUpdate hook. Then React will call render method, and after that, React will call getSnapshot before update, and at the end, React will call componentDidUpdate method. These are the 5 methods React will call whenever the property or state changes, or you can say the property or state update. So whenever the component updates, it will always call the render method. The other are optional methods. So let's talk about these methods. We all know how to work with getDerivedState from props in the mounting phase of the React component lifecycle. If you don't know about this method, I have a dedicated video on it. You can check out this video on the top right corner of the screen. So in this lecture, we're going to talk about shouldComponentUpdate React lifecycle hook. In shouldComponentUpdate method, you can return a boolean value that specifies whether React should continue with the rendering or not. Let me show you a very simple example to understand how shouldComponentUpdate method works. So I'm going to just back to my editor, and inside my API, here inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file and name this file updating.js, or you can say update.js. Both are identical. We are going to create the update phase of the component. So let me just create here a class component. So I'm going to say here React class component. Let me create that and import this component inside my index.js right here like this. Let me get rid of this property, save this file, and here I'm going to create my simple example. So inside this component, I'm going to first create a constructor. As you know, when the component is mounted in the UI, React will first call the constructor. So I'm going to specify props here, specify super, and pass all my properties to the parent component. Then I'm going to create here a simple state. So I'm going to say here this dot state is equal to, and in the curly braces, I'm going to create a property called gender and specify here gender male. Just after that, I'm going to simply say here console.log and simply print this dot state dot gender. I'm going to just simply print the initial value of the state inside my console. Just after that, I'm going to print the console again. And here in the single quote, I'm going to say constructor called. So when the constructor is called, I'm going to get this console message. Just after that, inside the JSX here, I'm going to create h1 heading tag and say my gender is, and in the curly braces, as you know, you can access the state property. So I'm going to say here this dot state dot gender like this. And then just down here, I'm going to simply create a button and specify here a text change gender. Using this button, I'm going to change this gender state. So I'm going to use here onClick event. OnClick is equal to, and in the curly braces, I'm going to pass my handler function. So inside my component right here, I'm going to create handler function called change gender is equal to, and pass here a function like this, and just call this gender inside this event right here. I'm going to say here this dot change gender. Just after that, inside this change gender, I'm going to simply change this state property. So I'm going to say here this dot set state, and inside it, I'm going to pass curly braces and say gender and pass here value. I'm going to say here female. Just after that, I'm going to simply call this console.log inside my change gender handler function. So this will just print the updated value of the state. Now, as you know, when the component is mounted, React will first call the constructor, then it will call render method. And if we change the state using property, then the React will call getDerivedState from props hook. Whenever you update your React component property or state, React will automatically call this render method. But what if you don't want to update your component whenever you have change in your state or property? In that case, you can use shouldComponentUpdate hook. Let me just show you. Right down here, I'm going to simply call here a hook called shouldComponentUpdate. This is a function, so I'm going to pass here parenthesis. This function is going to return true or false value, boolean values. So right now I'm going to just return false. The default value this function return is true. I'm going to return false here, and let me show you what happened if I click on this button and try to change this state property. Back to my browser and reload it. You can see here I have here a message. My gender is male. This is the initial value of the state. You can notice here in my console I'm going to get male. The React will first call constructor and then call render method. Because we don't have any console inside this render, I'm not going to get any message here. Let me just add this console message inside this render like this. So I'm going to get console message when the render method call. Let me just reload the browser. As you can see, I'm going to have the initial value of the state, which is male. Then the React will call constructor and then call render method. What if I click on this change gender? When I click on this button, I'm going to have the same male state here. You can notice in your example, when I click on the button, I want to change the state to female. But in my UI, I'm going to get male as a response. React will not re-render this component. You can notice when you click on the button, it will not update the component state, as well as React will not re-render this component. You can see we still have this male initial value of the state in the UI. So basically, using should component update hook, we can handle the render method, or you can say we can control the render method. The component should update method allows you to exit complex React lifecycle to avoid calling it again and again on every re-render. So whenever you don't want to update your component, when the state or property changes, you can use this should component update method. Now let me show you what happens if I specify here the default value, which is true. Let me save the changes to my browser and reload it. At this time, I'm going to get my initial value male. And now when I click on this button, React will update my component and I'm going to have female here. You can notice React will re-render this component and I'm going to have the updated state value in my UI. True is the default value of this component. The should component update method is used to let React know if a component is not affected by the state or property changes. So next time, whenever you want to control the render method, you can use this should component update method. So I hope you understand how to work with should component update method in React application. Next, we'll talk about get snapshot before update lifecycle.